The decision. The morning sun filtered through the gauzy curtains of the lodge room, casting soft patterns on the wooden floorboards. Sadie sat cross-legged on her bed, nursing a cup of chai. The warmth of the tea in her hands steadied her nerves, but her mind was far from calm. Across the room, Bart sat on the edge of his bed, his elbows on his knees, staring at a trail map spread across the floor between them. Neither had spoken much since the night before. The encounter had left an invisible weight in the room, heavier than their packs, and harder to set down. "I don't think it's crazy to call it quits," Bart said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was calm but guarded, as if testing the waters. Sadie didn't answer right away. She stared at the swirling steam from her tea, her thoughts as tangled as the forest that had nearly swallowed them the day before. "Quits as in?" she prompted, her voice soft. "As in the hike," Bart said, glancing at her with a mix of relief and reluctance. "We've done the 100-mile wilderness. That's more than most people attempt. We don't need to keep pushing it." Sadie raised an eyebrow. "You don't mean quit the through hike, do you?" Bart shrugged, his hazel eyes avoiding hers. "We came out here to challenge ourselves, to figure some things out. I don't think either of us expected—" He paused, gesturing vaguely at the window as if the memory of the creature could be summoned by pointing. "That!" Sadie exhaled sharply, setting her tea down on the nightstand. "So that's it. We let one freaky encounter stop us. Bart, we're hikers. We knew there'd be risks." Bart leaned back, his hands running through his sandy brown hair. "There's risks, Sadie. And then there's whatever that was. I don't even know what to call it, but I know it wasn't normal." Sadie stood abruptly, pacing the small room. Her curls, unkempt from a restless night, bounced as she moved. "Nothing about this hike has been normal. That's the point. We're out here to experience something different, to get out of our comfort zones. And yes, that thing, whatever it was terrifying, but it didn't hurt us." Bart let out a dry laugh. "Not for lack of trying. Or did you miss the part where it threw rocks at us and roared like a freight train?" She stopped pacing and turned to him, her expression resolute. "What if this is part of the trail's story? What if we're supposed to face it? Face it?" Bart's voice rose slightly. "Sadie, this isn't some personal growth metaphor. This is survival." The room fell silent again, the tension between them thickening like the mist in the early morning forest. Finally, Sadie crossed her arms and softened her tone. "Bart, you planned every step of this hike. You calculated the miles, the resupply points, the gear. But you didn't account for this. You can't account for everything. Sometimes you just have to trust yourself to keep going." "And if we run into it again?" Bart asked, his voice quieter now. "What then?" Sadie stepped closer, sitting down next to him. "Then we deal with it. Like we did yesterday. Together." Bart looked at her, the determination in her deep brown eyes steadying the doubts swirling in his mind. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "You're not going to let this go, are you?" She smiled, just a little. "Not a chance." After a long pause, Bart nodded. "All right, we'll keep going. But let's adjust the plan. Shorter days, more stops, and no camping alone in the middle of nowhere." Sadie grinned, the tension breaking like a dawn finally cresting the horizon. "Deal. But only if you let me carry a second can of bear spray." Bart chuckled. "Fine, but you're still not singing the electric boogie." "Oh, come on," Sadie teased, nudging him with her elbow. "It worked, didn't it?" As the two began packing their gear, the air in the room lightened. The unease of the night before wasn't gone, but it had settled into something manageable, something they could carry together. For better or worse, their hike wasn't over. Not yet.